Hi, and welcome to another DBMM battle report. This is a friendly game fought between myself and Lawrence. I was playing Hellenistic Greek of Book 2, and two unusual events led to a disaster. I like irregular auxiliary S armies. They're not too good in competition because they're a bit slow, but they are tough and flexible, maneuver quite well, and put up a good fight against any opposition. Now, what I wanted to test was whether you could play with a screen of auxiliary, only one deep, but backed up with hard-hitting regular knight Fs who could maneuver behind and pick exactly the right spot to launch their charge. I'm also testing a new way of recording these battle reports with a video done at high speed, so let me know how you think it works. This is my list. I picked the Athenian version because then you can have both the irregular auxiliary S instead of the spear or the pikes, that is the normal troops for this army, and also have the regular knight Fs. I only get 4 of them, plus the 3 generals, but I think that 7, even though small, might be decisive enough to make a difference. I've got a lot of the auxiliary S, that there are 46 total in this list. It also gives me a pretty high break point at 100. And also I've got a good mix of irregular Siloi I and regular Siloi O to enable me to win in any difficulties. So I've got 2 big auxiliary commands and a reserve, which has some auxiliaries as a fire brigade, plus also the second packet of Knight F. Lawrence picked a historical enemy, as he tends to do, and this is the Pyrrhic army in Italy. So this is the same Pyrrhic as the Pyrrhic victory is named for, because he won a lot of his battles, but he had so much attrition against the Romans that he lost the war. So 3 commands, one a big mounted command with both regular knight F in wedge and also a lot of CV and light horse. Then a very big phalanx command B, with a mix of pikes and also pike O and pike I mixed together with supporting troops. Finally, a pip-dump command consisting of the auxiliary O and Siloi. So with aggression 3 for Pyrrhus against 0 for the Greeks, it was pretty understandable that the Greeks were defending. The Pyrrhus chose a 2 FE Bear Gentle Hill. He wanted something for his cavalry and pikes to be able to attack down. The Greeks were expecting to defend, so they went for maximum rough to slow down the Pyrrhic cavalry and pikes. So they picked 2 scrubby hills and 2 small rocky flats and 1 built-up area. You can see here how the terrain fell. Unfortunately for the Pyrrhic, their Bear Gentle Hill fell on the enemy baseline. So you can see that here slid over to the left-hand side of the Greek baseline. The Pyrrhic Lawrence did go for a cheesy flat top on the 2FE hill. You can see it's positioned at the far end of the hill, which gives the maximum downhill coming towards me. That's why, because that hill was placed with such a long sloping downhill, if I let him get to the edge, that's why I put the built-up area just next to the hill in order to block it off. But in general, I was pretty happy with the terrain. I can win in any rough or difficult, given my multitudes of auxiliary S, and I've got lots of opportunities to use those as corridors to penetrate the Pyrrhic line. So this is the point at which you should pause the video and work out what would be your battle plan as the Greeks. Uh, The only extra news, the deployment dice were rolled and they turned up to be a 3-3. And that means that there was mist on the battlefield, a 6 a.m. start, but we started the battle at sunrise 7 a.m. That means that the mist would persist for 9 turns or until somebody rolled less than 3 on their pip dice. Now, what does Mist mean? Well, we had to look up the rules for this since I hadn't played in Mist before. Its biggest effect is reduced visibility, and that means that the maximum move of any unit is its visibility plus 40 paces. So that doesn't have any impact on foot, but it does slow down and cavalry and especially light horse. Most importantly, it reduces the march block distance down to that visibility of 160 paces, which dramatically changes the maneuver element of the game, as you will see. Well, the Greek plan was pretty straightforward since they had got good terrain. So they planned to win in all the terrain. And if he comes forward, then they will use the terrain to flank his army. So if he comes forward between the built-up area and the rocky flat in the middle of the battlefield, then we can pull back to the hill and pull back next to the rocky flat, and then lure him forward and launch attacks in from both sides, from the built-up area and from the rocky flat. So this is looking pretty comfortable. We don't have a counter to pike or to wedge knights, so we pretty much need to withdraw in front of his hammer blow, but he fights pretty narrow with his pike and his knights. He can't cover more than about 10 base widths, and that means that his flanks will be good targets for us to envelop him with. So here you can see the Greek deployment. In the front of the camera, you've got one command stretching between the built-up area and the rocky flat, with the knight F behind, with the auxiliary in one line, screening that entire battlefront. On the Greek right, on the left of the picture as you see it here, you've got the CNC command with another screen of auxiliaries stretching from the rocky flat to the scrubby hill. I have worked out that I can get to the top of the scrubby hill before the Pyrrhus does, so that is a safe flank. And you've got the light horse just behind the CNC command. Those have to play a very important role. They're the only troops on my side who can frighten the wedge knights because they don't. They get overlaps against them when no other troop types do. Finally, at the back, you can see the reserve with the auxiliaries and the Knight F and an extended line of Siloi ready to join the fight in the built-up area if it is needed to win that from the Pyrrhic Siloi. So you can see the Greeks arrayed in front of you. So as Pyrrhus, now you have to pause the video and decide how you're going to attack that line. This is what the Lawrence, the Pyrrhic player, chose to do. So he laid out his commands in a very compact formation. So he's looking to concentrate his whole army on his right. He has the pikes in the rough, but they are going to come out of there before they will fight. And he has all of his cavalry command concentrated on his right, and the Siloi are held behind. His left flank looks a little weak, but it's held by the auxiliary S. So now is the start of the game. The Greek first turn, a 4-4-2 for the pips, and that is enough. First priority is to get the attack moving. Here I made a mistake. I forgot that the march distance was reduced because of the mist. That's why I'm sending these forwards 5 from the enemy march blockers, but I could do it much closer to those troops. So I'm moving them 2 forwards. This is an advance into column. I realize with 4 pips I can do a third move using the CNC pip, and because that will take me 2 since they're irregulars. So I still have 1 pip left from the that I can use for the light horse. So the CNC uses his pip going into the column, and the infantry on the line will come up with the rest on one of those moves, coming along with the rest. Again, I want to put pressure on this flank and then pull back on the other flank. And I move the light horse. They're reduced by the mist, so they don't get to move their full move. I want to move them over in order to get them close to the wedge knights of the Pyrrhics. They are the only troops that I can use to defend. The rest of the moves don't matter too much. I move the knights up onto the hill. I want them out the way so that they can charge down the hill into the Pyrrhic mounted. And equally, I move the Siloi up onto the hill because I want to use them to contest the built-up area. However, the column's too long, so I can't move the auxiliary with them. So I have to do those as separate pip moves. And then I have so that's 2 pips from the Siloi, 1 pip for the auxiliary, and I have the general who can just slot in behind with the knights. I can also deploy the Siloi. So that is the Greek first move. Now move the Siloi forwards. Now I'll accelerate the video a bit. So that's line up the knights, can move them once more, since the auxiliary didn't move at all. And now it's clear where the fighting's going to be. I'll reposition the video a bit so we can see the built-up area and we don't need the rest of the board. So that's the end of the move for the Greeks. The Pyrrhic takes the first turn and they get really good pips. Now, one thing that we forgot in the Pyrrhic turn was that the generals have to be within visibility of their troops in order to give them orders, but I don't think it changed many troops. But now we remember it, and that's going to change what the Pyrrhic player does. Because initially, you see, he's looking at the moving those auxiliary in order to block off my advancing auxiliary S. I actually quite wanted him to do that because that will give them a nice target which they can destroy pretty easily since they outnumber and they are only auxiliary O. However, as soon as they do their first move, they are out of visibility of the general because of the mist, and therefore they would take extra pips. So this entire move is actually illegal and won't be allowed. So that was a bit of a shame. I was hoping that Lawrence would leave those troops as a target for my auxiliary. If you see there, I've got so many auxiliary, far more than I need for the flanking attack on the pike phalanx, and that gives something extra for my troops to kill rather than them just wading forwards slowly into the flank of the phalanx. Also, it strips some edge protection away from the phalanx, leaving just those 6 auxiliary S for me to fight before I get to the phalanx. unfortunately, when we checked up on the rules on the visibility, we found out, yes, anything beyond visibility requires an extra pip, which means you have to be within 160 paces of the general, and you can see the general just to the left of the scrubby hill here. So that means that those troops would need extra pips to do that move. And since they're the pip dump, they would probably never ever get to move again, since they're going to be averaging a 1 or a 2 on the dice every turn. So let me fast forward through this, and then we can see, okay, then you see they are going back to the original position, and we will uh, uh, use the visibility rules from here on. Okay, 2 moves forward from the pike phalanx. They are not. They would be march blocked without the mist, but because of the mist, they don't get march blocked until they are very close to my auxiliary line. So that is 2 marches forward. The first one is free because pikes get a free march on the first turn, and the whole phalanx comes forward, plus the flank protecting auxiliaries. Now we have a look at who is march blocked, and only one extreme right-hand column of the pike phalanx is march blocked here. The rest can do an extra move. The Pyrrhic player is going all in with a fast attack while the mist is still over the battlefield. So he moves the whole line forwards. He moves the light horse to screen the his knights and be in the front line, and then he can bring the knights into charge range for next turn and keep them screened with the light horse. He is doing a less than full move here because he's got the pips, and it is just enough to bring my auxiliary into threat zone distance. That's important because it means that I can't do an about turn with the auxiliary and run away because I'm in threat zone distance, and I would have to do those as single element moves rather than a full formation at only 2 pips. So that basically means that my auxiliary won't be able to run away now because he's reached threat zone distance, and he's got the knights. And he's got the wedge knights behind them. They can charge through the light horse next turn and hit the auxiliary, and they will go through them like butter because they quick kill and they are wedge, so it's very hard to kill them. Even though they're fast, they won't take any overlaps. So now he's working out how to flank protect the right-hand edge of his mounted command, that the Siloi in the built-up area would be able to hard flank unless he covers it. So okay, lots of different options and way to do it. He's got loads of pips. The question is, which one is he going to choose? So there's looking at positioning the light horse, and if they were just one of them, then it's going to be sucked away as a group. So considering, however, they're the reduced move distance, so that one at the back won't be able to reach there. The cavalry might be able to reach, but they can't get to full march block distance. So lots of different alternatives on that one. Okay, the pike, he decides to do 1 extra move forwards. That's very important because now they are within charge range of the auxiliary line. They wouldn't have been able to do that extra move without the mist. The auxiliary would have an extra turn to respond and to retreat, but because of the mist, the pike phalanx lurches through the mist, and the auxiliary only get 1 move to respond. Finally, looking at the pip dump, okay, now he's moving back some of the auxiliary. If he moves them all up as a group, then they won't flank protect the one in front. So if he breaks them up and leaves one behind, because they're moving with the phalanx, it will be at exactly 160 paces distance from the auxiliary front line, and therefore flank protect. So the way he set it up at the moment, all of the uh, his vulnerable flank is flank protected. I won't be able to hard flank it because of the echelon formation, where one is covering the one behind. Okay, then he's looking at bringing the entire auxiliary command forwards. He's moved his Siloi to get them close to enter and contest the built-up area. The auxiliary tested and they are moving forwards. However, he's moving them forwards, getting them into column, which puts them all on the hill, so they can be in a nice defensive position on the hill, rather than his original idea, which is sending them out in front of my auxiliary command. That's a lot more sense. They're only auxiliary O, but on the hill they can hold forever against my auxiliary S. So yeah, especially with the Siloi as backup in case they lose a line. So we don't play that you can't take back any moves when we're playing friendly games. We're not playing competition rules. So that's why you see lots of different options being considered and things measured. We know where they came from because we've got photos and the video. So we play fairly relaxed. Okay, now you see it is and here we can see the end of the Pyrrhic player's first turn. So Lawrence has come forward very aggressively, taking advantage of the mist, reducing the march block distance. So he has understood how that works better than the Hellenistic Greek player. You can see his pikes coming forward very aggressively, and they are now within 160 paces of the Hellenistic Palace line, which is charge distance. They wouldn't have been able to do that without the mist. They would have been march blocked one move earlier, giving the Hellenistic Greek more time to respond. The same with the cavalry. They would have been march blocked earlier if there was no mist, but because of the mist, the light horse are able to come to threat zones this distance of the auxiliary pellasts. Now that is significant because it means the whole line can't turn and retreat. Instead, they would have to go back by individual element moves, which would take a lot of pips. So that has effectively pinned the auxiliary and prevented them from running away from the knights behind the light horse that will be coming through. However, I wasn't too worried as the Hellenistic Greek player. I can still do my plan. I can about face the bulk of the auxiliaries that are facing the uh, pikes and move them back, sucking in the pike and then being able to hit them from the flank, from the rough, with the auxiliaries of the other command. If I get 3 pips, then I can also go into contact with the light horse with my auxiliaries, and that should protect them from the knights because it'll be hard for the Pyrrhic player to push knights through the light horse if they're in combat. And I've got a nice flank threat coming from the built-up area. Also, while there's mist, it'll be hard for the Pyrrhic player to respond. Because of the reduced because of the reduced visibility, generals are out of command distance if they're beyond visibility. So this column of Siloi that is in the front, that is unlikely to be able to get the pips because its commander is up with the pikes. Equally, the auxiliaries protecting the left flank, they're not going to get any pips either because they're the same command as the general next to the pikes. So on both those flanks, it's going to be hard for the Pyrrhic player to maneuver, which means that my attack might be fast enough to roll up the Pyrrhic line. But that does really depend what the die roll is in the next turn for my pips. And this is where it went horribly wrong for the Hellenistic Greeks. You can see the die roll, which is a 6-1-1-2, and that is about as bad as it can get. The 1 for the big auxiliary command, the middle pip dice, that means that that whole line of auxiliary can't turn around. So it will have to take the pike charge from the front, and that is a disaster. That means they will die quickly. So that is disaster number 1. Disaster number 2 is that that roll means that the mist has lifted. So now the Pyrrhic army is fully in command and will be able to respond to those challenges on its flanks. And the any die roll other than a 1 for the middle pip command would have been okay. A 3 would have been great, then I could have charged in the auxiliary. A 2 would have been okay. I wouldn't have been able to charge in on the light horse, but I would have been able to do the most important one, which is pull the auxiliary backs so that they can lure the pikes forward and not get caught. But yeah, now it's looking tough for the Hellenistic Greeks. And it gets a bit worse for the Hellenistic Greek player that they were going in against the light cavalry on 3s, 3 versus 3, with overlaps at the end to give them an advantage. But they managed to lose most of the fights, and because one was left with double overlap and then rolled badly, they lost one in the middle, which means now the auxiliary will be able to be hard flanked. So what was looking like quite a long attritional slow flight now looks like a breakthrough for the Pyrrhic player here. From now on, I'll switch to the video format so that you can see the flow of the game, because some of the detailed decisive action has already taken place. Hard flank. Okay, now back to the Pyrrhic player's turn. That not too much doubt, the whole pike phalanx is going to go in on the auxiliary line. They will crunch into them, and there's also a wedge knight general going in alongside them as well. So that looks like curtains for my auxiliary command. Tricky to work out what to do with the mounted command. The light horse are in the front, and the can't pull the light horse back through the cavalry and knights behind. The light horse can't interpenetrate the heavier troops. So instead he's sending the light horse into hard flank through the gap, and then the others can go into combat. So he's trying to work out how he can get the knights in. Okay, for example, he can move a knight back, he can move the light horse out, and then the other knight can go in onto the auxiliary. So this is quite tricky. Needs some good tactical play in order to work out how to get the knights in. But fortunately, the Pyrrhic players got lots of pips. Here you see the light horse going in, so they got a hard flank on that auxiliary, and then the knights have gone in on another auxiliary, so that's not looking very good for this big command. Got the pikes in combat across the line, a wedge knight, 2 wedge knights going in, and a hard flank, so I could easily lose 4 or 5 auxiliary just in this turn alone if the dice were unlucky. Now the one thing of hope is that the pike phalanx has got a weak flank because it's charged forward to take advantage of the auxiliary. It is not easy for the Pyrrhic player to protect their flanks. So he's got to work out how he's going to do that. He's got enough units there, but needs to figure out, the puzzle of how to flank protect that line, because the pikes are too far behind and they're march blocked, so they can't move twice in order to be able to protect it. So eventually it decides to pull back one column of the pike in order to protect the flank of the one in contact. So rather than sending the full 4 in, he will send 1 in to hard flank my auxiliary. That's possible now because, again, the mist has lifted and I didn't get the pips to move that one. Okay, so that is now he's working out, okay, the details of who goes in, how the pike column and the auxiliary. He'll need to send an auxiliary in the front in order to fight. There it goes. Now that the hard flank has been put in. Okay. Then we have a move, the rest. They don't want to be in front of that steamroller that is my command coming in. So he's moving them over to the side to try to delay the flanking move. The Siloi keep advancing. That they don't really. It'll be a very slow fight in the built-up area, but they may as well go forwards if they've got the pips. Okay, so yeah, just checking everything's flank protected. You can see the pike that's put at an angle between the pike phalanx and the hard flank. That is protecting the flank of both of those units. So both the two deep pike column and the pike hard flanking. Both of those are protected by the unit at the angle. And the pip dump, not much it needs to do. General coming up. Okay, so improve the flank protection for his mounted corps. Send in another wedge knight. So yeah, this is really maximizing the attack on those auxiliary. Okay, we look at the combats. Okay, rolling across the line. In general, you want to do the combats where you have the biggest advantage first, so that you can set up overlaps for future combats. Fortunately, the hard flanking one lost, so that they bounced. So all of the cavalry bounced on those auxiliary, which is good. Unfortunately, the troops fighting against the knights don't do as well. So doing those fights. Okay, you see one auxiliary down in front of the knights. Doing the pike before the knights so that they can create an overlap for the knights, but so the knights going through and beating theirs, so 2 units down in that line already. Okay, my troops rolled very well against the pike, and this turn they didn't kill anyone. So that's really against the odds because the pike are a factor of 7 against mine that are only a 3s. And he also generates some overlaps. So unlucky on the combat rolls not to kill some of these auxiliary in front of the pike, but he killed 2 auxiliary in front of his knights, and he also killed the hard flanked auxiliary in the corner. So pretty effective, 3 auxiliary down in the second turn for the Pyrrhics. Now I flank protect, move a unit to flank protection in order to make him unable to hard flank again. I didn't get too many pips to play around with. I want to make sure the rear of those auxiliary is on the hill so that they will get the advantage. Okay, so now it is the Greek turn to respond. Not much that they can do. They get fairly low pips. The flank attack keeps going. but they can't reach charge distance, so they stop just short of the auxiliary. But that's a steamroller coming in on the auxiliary S. Okay. Looking to see whether I could lock them down so they can't run away, but not really a sensible option. The checking some of the march blocking distances. Okay, what can measure? I can, if I pull one back, then I'm able to prevent it being hard flanked from the next one along. So by pulling that one out, I flank protect myself. Not much I can do in the other places. So we have to fight. Uh, so here the auxiliary getting pushed back by the pike phalanx, uh, and another auxiliary going down to the wedge knights. The and other combats. Now I'm really going to up the pace on the video since the action slows down a little bit. Okay, so the auxiliary line is holding at the moment against the pike phalanx. That is against the odds. They really should die pretty quickly there. You can see my knights formed up on the hill. They are ready. That's quite dangerous for even the wedge knights to go up because my troops will get an advantage charging down. And even though they won't suffer overlaps, they will suffer their -1 for being fast. And I'll get my +1 for charging downhill. Okay, now you can see Lawrence trying to work out how to defend the flank. He doesn't need to win here. He just needs to slow down my flank attack and have some troops defending the rear. So you see him marking the front of the troops and then testing out some different ways to flank protect. The square in front of my unit is the threat zone, so he can't cross into that, but he's working out, how he can form a line in order to hold me up. And you can see, okay, there he got again good pips for this command. They can rotate and form a line to slow me down. Okay, so testing some different configurations. They're all individual element moves. My big line will charge in, but we're equal troops. I'll get overlaps, but it won't be a quick fight against his good guys. Now he's working out how to give flank protection on the left-hand edge of his auxiliary. He really needs some auxiliary to come down from the hill and take the position of flank protecting against the others, and then he uses his good pips to reform his auxiliary on the hill. Now they're a much wider line than my attackers, which will give them a bigger edge. Okay, now he's working out how to get he's got two choices here. Does he push his wedge knights forwards into a major attack, or does he play safe and pull them back? Actually, this is a pretty easy decision because the only way he can lose the game is if he loses his knights. And his pike are in a winning position against my auxiliary, so he doesn't need to risk the knights going uphill against my knights. And I've got my light horse. You can't see it in the picture, but my light horse are coming in from the bottom. And they are able to get overlaps against his wedge knights, so that's a good counter to his wedge knights. Okay, we're doing the combats across the line. When he gets double overlaps, it's very dangerous for my auxiliary. There you see an auxiliary going down, and that's created a hole in the line for him to exploit. But my guys are fighting very well. They're going down slowly. They can't beat that pike phalanx, but they can die slowly. Okay, now you see my light horse from off the picture. They come in and plug the holes. They're pretty good at slowing down the pike phalanx. My whole auxiliary command goes in against him flank protecting, but that won't be a quick fight because I can't get hard flanks. I have to grind him down with overlaps, and that is not quick enough to get in on the pike phalanx side. I do manage to hard flank one pike column, but that is it. Okay, and you can see the light horse now coming in, trying to fill the gap to against his wedge knights, which is a good counter to his wedge knights. Okay, my unit's not having any success against the light horse of the Thracians. That fight is just pushed back and forwards. One auxiliary S killed, so first Pyrrhic casualty to go down. At least we managed to kill somebody. Okay, and the auxiliary getting pushed back by the pike. And good news, the hard flanking works, so that's two pikemen going down, which is a nice success for the Pyrrhics. But the pike phalanx still grinding forward, nothing my auxiliary can do to stop them, and my light horse could not even kill a Siloi. Okay, so now we're back to the Pyrrhic turn. What is Lawrence going to do? Doesn't really need to do anything. He pulls off my unit flanking the phalanx. So because he goes into their flank, they will have to conform and face, so they will no longer be hard flanking the pikes. Uh, then he is just trying to line up. He reforms the pike phalanx and now is looking to put more units in to protect the flank. So you can see Lawrence is very good tactically, and that is what is needed in these situations. He's able to use his pips very efficiently in order to plug every hole and get every overlap and match-up advantage that he can. Okay, there was a light horse that got spent on the auxiliary. That opens the way for Lawrence to pull back his light horse and send in a wedge knight against another auxiliary. He's now calculating if he kills all the auxiliary in front of the pike and the wedge knight, then he will be able to break that, to dishearten that command. And once it's disheartened, it will roll on to broken pretty quickly. So he's sending his knights in against my light horse. They will beat them, but hopefully it won't be too damaging. He only manages to kill one, so he does kill one, but he doesn't kill the other. The other is his knight is pushed back. So that gives me a chance. I now have got an overlap against his knights. So that will be my one chance. And you see, he's pushing his knights forward aggressively. So gives me a chance to counter-strike against his knights. This is, so you can see my auxiliary are going down. He's killed another one. They're going down slowly. They can't beat the pikes. And now that there are holes, they will die pretty quickly. Okay, so you can see them being ground backwards. The pikes are really unstoppable for deep by auxiliary. They're going to go backwards most turns, and they're going to die pretty frequently. You need a So now you see I'm sending in more light horse in order to plug the holes. I didn't really want to do that. I want to keep the light horse to counter his wedge knights, but I don't really have an option. If I leave those holes, my auxiliary will die immediately. Okay, but I do send, we're now getting running down the clock. It's pretty close to the end of our time, so I send my knights in against his wedge knights and light horse in order to see if I can do some damage. So I kill another auxiliary there, but you can see that attack is just too slow. too little, too late, and another auxiliary goes down, and another grinds forwards. This command is going to be disheartened if it loses a few more auxiliary. Okay, so if we look across the board, my attacks on with 2 overlaps against his knights didn't work. Okay, and neither of those attacks on the knights worked, even with my general getting involved. And you see I lost another 2 other auxiliary there against his cavalry, and that disheartens the command. And at that point, we called the game. The Greeks had one command disheartened, and they were going to lose that command broken. They could probably have held out a bit since they're on the hill with their pip dump command, and they've got their auxiliaries steaming in, but this was a lost game for the Greeks, and the decisive moment was when they rolled 2 ones for their pip dice, so they couldn't execute their plan of retreating away from the phalanx and sucking them forward so that their flank would be exposed to my troops in the rough in the middle. That was the decisive moment and the mist lifting when the Greek plan fell to pieces. So that was a well-deserved win for Lawrence with the Pyrrhic army. He took great advantage of the change in rules on the mist to close on the Greek army very fast, and also had great tactical play to get the matchups and the flank defense during the battle. The Greeks, I think the strategy was okay to screen and retreat in front of the mounted and the phalanx, but definitely missed out on the very rapid advance on the mist, and also strategy doesn't work if you roll a double 1 for pips, but that shouldn't happen too often. So I still think the strategy is valid. Second learning for me was how the mist changes the game, the very rapid advance to combat, and that you can't pull back as fast, and the limited control of the generals is a big change to the game. I think it's pretty realistic that you've got the enemy looming out of the mist and you don't have enough time to react. That's what happened to the Greek army here. So kudos to Phil Barker for the rules. Even in this obscure occasion of mist, their rules worked pretty realistically. After the battle, consulting with James, one of our other rules gurus, we shouldn't really have had mist in this game. With 0 difference on the dice, which is the only time mist occurs, you should roll again and then add all the dice to get a new start time. So we rolled 3-3 and had it start at 6 in the morning. We should have rolled again and added it, so it would have been very likely that our battle would have started more than 3 hours after sunrise when there'd been no mist. So mist is only really likely if you roll a 1-1 or maybe a 2-2, so not that often. So maybe not worth understanding the mist rules since it's pretty unlikely to turn up. Anyway, we're trying this new format on video. Do you prefer video or photos? I'm pretty inclined to mix it up since I think they give a different feel for the battle reports. So let me know any suggestions or which one do you think is better, and I'll see you in the next battle report soon.